And today we're going to talk about our memory. It's not as good as you think. Like we spoke about last time, long-term memory is anything that we retrieve that's been greater than 30 seconds. And there was actually this really interesting study. There was this guy who had this seizure disorder. And he, because of the seizure disorder, had some brain dysfunction. And he had no long-term memory. And they did test after test after test. And 30 seconds was his limit. Anything that was 30 seconds or older, he could not remember. I thought that was kind of interesting. So long-term memory greater than 30 seconds, short-term memory less than 30 seconds, and sensory memory less than a second. So why is long-term memory not as good as we think? First of all, we use our senses, and our senses are limited. We only can hear so much. We can only see so well. Our taste buds can only be so intact. So we're limited by our perception as far as our memory. So a lot of times our perception will be incorrect. For example, last Friday I was playing golf, and I was playing really cruddy again. That's kind of beside the point. But I had my long-range contacts on. And when I have my long-range contacts in my eyes, I can't read very well, but I can, see farther. So I'm supposed to meet a friend of mine after golf, but he started drinking pretty early. So I was going to meet him, have a couple beers, have some food. So he's texting me while I'm playing golf, and I'm kind of annoyed, because he's texting me and I'm doing terrible. And I read his text, and I thought he was kind of smashed by what he was saying because it didn't make any sense. And then when I put my other context in, it's like, oh, okay, it actually does make sense. I was misreading what he said, so my sensory information was incorrect, and now I pretty much have to go apologize to him for being kind of rude to him. So our sensory information alters our memory. Our past experiences also alter our memory. If I go to the Indianapolis 500 and I'm sitting next to a young lady from the Sudan who's never been to the 500, we're going to experience the event totally differently, and our memory of what the event was like is going to be different because of that. So we're going to have different memories of the exact same event. And so it shows how our past experiences influence how we pay attention to things and influences how we remember things. They did this one study where they had these college students, and studies always have college students, and they were asked to watch a basketball team how many times they passed the ball. The basketball team was just, they were just kind of up front. They weren't on a court or anything. And so they counted the number of times that they counted the number of times that the ball was passed to another person. And for the most part, they were pretty accurate in being able to precisely determine how many times the ball was passed. However, in the middle of this, person in a gorilla suit walked right in the middle of the basketball players, bowed, and then left the stage. And they asked the students if there's anything odd that happened during the basketball event. And less than half of the people even perceived the gorilla, who, walked through the middle of it, bowed, and then left, because they weren't focused on the gorilla. They were focused on the basketball players. Another interesting study that shows how your perception alters your memory. They showed a video clip of a car, I think it was smashing into a building or smashing into another car. And they asked them, if there was any broken glass, which there was. Now, if they asked them if was there any broken glass after the car hit the object, and then they asked them if there was any broken glass after the car smashed into the object. The number of responses of broken glass went up dramatically when they used the word smashed as opposed to the word hit. So even wording things can alter how we remember things. Finally, there was another study where they asked college students if they'd ever broken a window when they were a child. And so they got a number of responses. And then later in the study, they asked them to picture themselves breaking a window as a child. And then again, later on in the study, they asked them if they ever broke a window as a child. And the number of positive responses went up 25% because they had basically inserted a memory from their visualizing themselves breaking a window as a child. So all these things show that our memory, it's only so good. It's fairly flawed, and we have to be a little careful when we say, well, I remember that for certain, and I remember it happening exactly that way, because a lot of times it doesn't. Every time we retrieve a memory, we have a chance, we have an opportunity to alter that memory. So this was just kind of interesting. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.